Oneness is something I really experience every day of my life with the nature around me, the people I live with, the friends that I do work with, the friends that I meet every day. And I can feel the force existing, that beautiful, good, truthful force. So, to a lot of people, when I tell you this experience, it may seem like just a story or that I must have hallucinated in this experience, but I know that it was a real experience for me. I was just about 2 months away from giving birth to my first child. I was babysitting a friend's baby. The baby was sleeping on my chest on a chair, and I was just sitting there quietly, deep in my own thoughts, when suddenly the room became filled with so much light that I couldn't keep my eyes open. I was forced to close my eyes, and even after closing, I could feel the force of the light that had filled up that room. When you're looking at the sun, you can't keep your eyes open. It was just like that. Even when I tried to open it a little bit, I knew that the light was still there. So I kept my eyes closed and I waited to try to open my eyes again. But while I was waiting, knowing that the room is filled with light, I felt somebody's hand being placed on my head in a very gentle, very soothing, calming way. To me, at that time, I was, newly married, and a very loving relationship with my husband had begun just a couple of years ago. So I always felt that soothing, calming sense when he would put his hand on my head. In a few moments, I was able to slowly open my eyes, and the room was as normal as it was before I experienced that light. And I quickly took my phone and I called Fred that, were you trying to surprise me? And did you come in this room and put your hand on my head and then left? And he said, no, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm in the middle of my work. And at that time, I knew that some divine force had made its presence felt in that room. In that moment, I felt like God came and gave me his blessings because I was going to be a mother for the first time. Another moment, my mom, dad, and my two little children were alone in the house with me. Fred was traveling for work, and my mom wakes me up. She knocks on my door at 3 a.m. that something has happened to daddy. Can you come and see what's happened? He's half on the floor, half on the bed. And I knew that my daddy was having a heart attack. I immediately called 911, and they truly arrived within 2, 3 minutes because we live fairly close to one of the fire stations. And they took him to our closest hospital in Mercy, Fairfield. The doctors told me that this is such a severe case that based on what we are seeing, his heart is functioning just barely 2%. So it's just like somebody who is at the end of their life and the heart is just barely beating. I told them that do whatever you can. Try to save his life. Don't give up on him. So they agreed to send him to Deaconess Hospital, which is closed now, but in those days, Deaconess very much existed and was one of the best hospitals for heart surgeries. So they called for a helicopter to fly my dad there so he could go there as soon as possible. My dad's body was placed in the helicopter and it wouldn't start. So they quickly switched my dad to an ambulance. It was raining. It was dark because it was still between 3:30 and 4 a.m. in the morning. And I was crying and I was driving in my car behind the ambulance, talking to God that I will not allow you to take my dad away from me. You will not take my dad from this world. He is not ready to leave this world. And I was so angrily talking to God. How are you doing this to me? My dad has always been the figure of strength and support and a good health. He works out, goes to the gym every day, and this happens suddenly in his life. I'm not going to let him go from this world. And you have to do whatever it takes. The doctors are saying it's impossible that he will survive, but you have to make the impossible possible. And I was talking to God and praying whatever I knew because all our prayers are in such an ancient language. We only know a limited number of prayers in that ancient language that we have memorized. And we finally reached Deaconess. When upon reaching there, the paramedics came out and told me that your dad was clinically dead for 2 minutes. He was gone. But when you resuscitate a person who has just died, there is some hope of reviving the heart again. The surgeons were ready, and the whole team was ready to see my dad. And the whole team of the doctor, his assistants, the nurses were very sympathetic with me, holding my hand and telling me that we are really sorry. We cannot do anything for this patient. He's at the end of life. His heart is barely beating and functioning. And I still told them that, please, I plead with you. You go and do your work. Go take him to the operating room. And they said that we will take him and try, because you have signed the documents and you're requesting this service. We will do it. But be prepared that your dad is not going to come out alive. And I was crying. I said goodbye to my dad, and they all took him inside. I was sitting outside, desperately again praying and talking to God, that I know that all the forces in nature are going against my dad, but you are more powerful than everything else in the universe. And you can make this impossible thing possible. Whatever help you can send in the operating room, you go there and help my dad with whatever the surgeons need to be able to perform the surgery on him. In a few minutes, I get a call after my dad had been taken in the operating room that we know you're praying for your dad. Whatever you're doing, just keep praying, because something miraculous is happening here. The vital signs of your dad have stabilized in such a wonderful way that the surgeon has some hopes of performing the surgery on your dad. So I was beginning to feel a little hopeful, and I was still crying, and I was thinking that I wish I knew some prayer which was specially for this incident that had happened, like a prayer for illnesses or a prayer for saving someone's life when they're so sick. I don't keep a prayer book in my purse, but I thought, let me search my purse, which is a big purse and a lot of junk is in it. And out of all the things in the world, I find a scrap of paper from the bottom of my purse, which I must have torn several years ago from an old pocket-sized Zoroastrian calendar, which on the back of that pocket-sized calendar must have been a prayer which I must have saved and kept in my purse. And it said, prayer for severe illnesses. And you have to pray this prayer repeatedly 7 times. And I immediately started praying that prayer, shocked that out of all the things that I needed in the world right now, I found the best thing I needed to help me pray for my dad. Believe it or not, I got another phone call from the nurses who were assisting in that surgery that we are all hopeful that we may be able to complete the surgery with your dad still alive. And there is some hope that your dad will make it through this surgery. I have never felt God's presence and his help so powerfully in my life. And the surgery, which took several hours, was completed. I was told later on that they were amongst the top heart surgeons in the city. And they said that in their entire career of heart surgeries that they had performed, they had never seen a case that was so hopeless when they took it inside the operating theater and became so hopeful. They said that day, even they believed that some divine intervention had helped the surgeons to make my dad survive again.